Hi, welcome to Hear Me Out podcast, the rebrand of Motivational 101. And I want to thank you for your support in choosing to listen to my podcasting about motivation, mindset, and life skills. I'm happy to contribute my sharings from various resources that include my own research findings from credible podcasts that I listen to, books that I read, and some of my experience compact for you to get inspired and motivated to move forward in life. So, are you well versed with your emotional intelligence? In part one of my podcast, I shared the basic relation between you and your emotion. In this second part of my podcast, I'll be sharing on how emotional intelligence, or rather EQ, can be learned to use as a tool for awareness and success element in both your professional and personal aspects. So while IQ is relatively important in displaying specific intelligence and talent, it still has its limitation to its capacity. Whereas EQ is a skill that it can be built on and used to combat the crucial parts of your life like your career and social environment. So the awareness of your emotions are highly dependent on you to stay focused, motivated, decisive, and even stabilize your social, emotional environment with others. So, the secret to that is simply to learn the coping skills that will help you stay adaptable and self efficient. So let's begin by looking into the framework of emotional intelligence aspects that are frequently used. So, self awareness is what we use to self manage, which is the combination of two factors. Number one, it's having the ability to understand our emotional vocabulary, like labeling our emotions. And number two is knowing how to self regulate your emotions. You will be surprised that many of us can feel but have a hard time labeling our own emotions, which there could be a few factors to that reason. So you may not be familiar with the terms of your emotion, and that's one reason. Your emotion could be complex at the time where having more than one emotion could be going on at the same time, or you could be probably giving more importance to the distraction of busyness around you and you are not aware of your own thoughts and feelings. All these factors disable the ability to understand and recognize your emotions and thoughts process. So, therefore, it causes a distraction to your self regulating emotional behavior. Of course, it's easier said than done, but like I've mentioned, regulating your emotions is a skill that can be learned, and all it takes is practice. So, the second part of our emotional intelligence plays a big role in our motivation. And EQ helps one to understand the aspirational driving force to sustain motivation. What do I mean by this? Have you had the experience when you're emotionally happy, you naturally feel motivated? And likewise, to the opposite emotion, when you feel upset, you would feel less motivated. And what happens if you don't recognize the relation between your emotion and motivation concept? You may get yourself into feeling frustrated, and this is an unbalanced emotional state. So, therefore, it simply means that our motivation very much depends on us recognizing and exercising our awareness towards our emotional lives. So, for the third part, it's our rational beliefs that creates healthy emotional consequences. A lot of our emotional consequences has to do with our rational perception. And our rational perception means the thoughts of what we think is logic to us. So based on that perception, we tend to make habitual choices and responses to the events that may or may not be beneficial and helpful to us. It's believed by research that most of our long-standing emotional problems like resentment or fear is due to irrational negative thinking. So being mindful of your belief system could help you make rational healthy responses. So for the fourth part, it's about our social management, which is using the emotional intelligence as your social awareness skill. It is enabling the ability to empathize and manage relationship with others. And emotional intelligence comes as a handy soft skill in the aspects of managing human relationships, especially in corporate and business industries. Research had recognized that there's an increase in the trends of companies employing people not only with academic abilities, but hiring people with possession of other abilities such as displaying soft skills in empathy, resilience, and initiative, just to name a few. And therefore, emotional intelligence has become one of the important factors made as a requirement for excellence in the workforce with an aim to utilize and retain human resources. And it is also a belief that a high number of EQ individuals can grow a company further as a team. So, the ability to listen, influence, motivate, and collaborate is the social skill found in emotional intelligence that is required when it comes to handling close personal relationships as well as professional networks. And so, for the last part, which is the fifth part of emotional intelligence, comes into play of leadership, and it is the broad spectrum of many domains. And research states that leaders with high EQ use them as leading example for others to follow. In other words, an individual that leads with their heart makes a successful leadership. So although IQ is considerable important, it is known to have its limitation in its capacity. The good news is that intelligence is something that can be worked on, whereas EQ requires a compassionate ability from within an individual. Compassion draws the innate capacity of positive emotions like understanding, empathy, kindness, and the willingness to help others. So, if you're a leader managing a particular group or a team, there are a set of challenges in keeping the team on a ball, which requires the ability to understand and manage different emotional needs, not just for yourself, but for those around you as well. So, not just with a desire to achieve and lead is sufficient, but being equipped with a high EQ, that is your emotional intelligence as a leader, is equally important as it creates greater outcome in self-efficacy and performance as a result, which would then translate as overall team satisfaction. For the final part, you could be wondering what's in for you. Well, all in all, the practice of self-awareness in emotional aspect, it's an important cognitive asset in recognizing and effectively managing emotion in both self and social relationships successfully. And we get ideas from everywhere to make our lives better. And by comprehending emotional language and interpreting your emotional information to self-regulate gives a great deal of evidence for you to promote greater well-being and growth to yourself and those around you. Right, so I've come to the end of the video. If you're a parent, I've included some parenting tips at the end of the video where you can actually read them from the visual. So till the next time, from Hear Me Out, I'm signing off. That's Jacinta Stevens.